Monday afternoon to you. This is the January 15th edition of the map discussion. Here we have the water vapor imagery. You can see the southern part of the subtropical jet and some infiltrations from the north. From very cold air is on its way across most of the eastern part of the United States, pretty much east of the Rockies. So let's look at the maps and see how they will evolve. Our 850 millibar map, we have high pressure over the Intermountain West, and that's pretty much the only feature here. We have analyzed over southern Canada at 7 a.m. Eastern time, some troughs of low pressure, and some another little trough off the coast of New England with some faster winds aloft, or roughly a kilometer and a half up. I'm going up to 7 or 500 millibars. Sorry, this is the middle of the atmosphere. A very pronounced trough is extending across pretty much the United States lengthwise from the desert southwest, extending northeastward towards the Great Lakes region, with some a jet across the deep south into the southern mid-Atlantic or the Carolinas. And on the other side of that trough, towards southern Canada or western parts of Canada, we have some more faster winds aloft. This is the feature that's going to pretty much give us a blast of winter across the United States. Across the Intermountain West into the northern parts of the plains, we have height rises, which indicate some sinking motion, at least encouraged. So here is our global ensemble forecasting system mean 500 millibar heights in our colors, and the surface mean sea level pressure in our black lines. As we push this forward, this high pressure center gets really far south, northern Gulf of Mexico, and that trough slides off the eastern coast, maybe inducing some low pressure centers. Now, I like this map from our friends from weathernerds.org because each individual low pressure center from each individual member is mapped, and you can kind of see where each individual member kind of forecasts where that position of the low is, and the black lines are the mean or the average of each one of those positions. And I really like this because it gives you a sense of how certain the forecast will be. In the southern parts of the United States, where Oklahoma, Arkansas, Northeast Texas, somewhere in there is going to be a low pressure center, but the specifics will be ironed out later. The general forecast here is for this low pressure center to go southeastward into the northern Gulf, as it links up or phases with that northern system from Canada. And notice how cold, or the cooler colors, or how low these heights are. This is very, very cold air up here that's being filtered down into the eastern parts of the United States. And what's interesting is some of the members of the GFS or GEFS wants to induce some low pressure development across the coastal Carolinas, somewhere off the coast. And we'll see what that means in a moment when we look at a particular solution. But the overall pattern here is where you have a trough of upper level trough of low pressure across the eastern parts of the United States, a massive high pressure center, upwards of 10,040 millibars, which is pretty strong. This is very, very cold air. You got very, very cold air here, as we'll get to in a moment. But this is going to stick around for most of the week next week, and really just settle in and modify over the southeastern United States. And when we say cold, I mean it's going to get downright cold, especially for people in the Carolinas and the southeastern United States. I mean, Sheesh. What happens when low pressure is being forecast to develop, or at least some members of the GEFS develop some sort of low pressure center off the coast of the Carolinas sometime next week? Well, here's a particular solution, and this isn't exactly what's going to happen, but this is that initial front with the low pressure center from the southern plains translating across the deep south. Mainly rain across the southeastern United States. Nothing really big, with some snow on the backside of that. Again, nothing really big. What is interesting is that the GFS, as long with some of the members of the GEFS, develop a low pressure center. Well, that low pressure center is developing along a baroclinic zone, or the baroclinic zone is going to be activated because there's so much cold air being filtered down from Canada that low pressure is induced from that upper level trough. And when we have an upper level trough out ahead of it, we have height falls. Height falls indicate some rising motion. Rising motion creates a vacuum, and the atmosphere tries to balance that out. Well, when it balances it out, low pressure is created at the surface, and if low pressure is strong enough, it throws moisture back towards the cold air and produces some snow. Now, this is over 100 hours out, 108, 114 hours out. So this is very, very, very fragile in the models. Just because you have a bunch of cold air being filtered down from Canada, and it's going to be slamming up against this warm Gulf Stream, doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have low pressure develop, and it won't necessarily take the track that is forecast here, because this is a very amplified pattern. So, a lot of things are going to change. But what's interesting is that since you have cold air in place, or becoming in place, and you might have some low pressure develop across the coastal Carolinas, or maybe perhaps just off the coast. Whether that, if that even happens, which is a big question mark, will it be strong enough to throw moisture back towards cold air? That's another question mark. Who knows? At this point, we're just looking at the setup. So that setup is pretty much Sunday afternoon through Monday, where you might have some low pressure develop across the coastal Carolinas. Here we have the GEFS 2-meter temperature anomalies averaged over 5 days, so we get a good idea of where cold air is and where warm air is relative to the time of year. Now, if we push this forward, cold air, we are talking -16 to -20 degrees difference, perhaps even more in some places across the upper plains here. And this is going to slide to the south and east. So between January 19th and January 24th, the vast majority of people east of the Rockies will be anywhere from 10 to 25 degrees below average. And this slightly modifies as we go towards, the end of the month. But still, the southeastern United States, pretty much the eastern seaboard into the southern plains, southern parts of Texas, is going to see some pretty cold temperatures just stick around for a while. So we're going to see some pretty cold temperatures stick around for a while. So, when you have this setup, you already have cold air in place. All you would need is something to induce cyclone genesis, and then you have a snowstorm somewhere in the eastern part of the United States. Okay, so now let's take a look at the different members. So this is the GEFS. This is courtesy of our College of DuPage Next Lab. That source right there is very, very good. If you wanted to know what the different members look like. So this is great because this gives us a range of possibilities. Well, This next system, Saturday afternoon, or pretty much Friday night into Saturday afternoon, most of the members have all rain across the Carolinas, with some snow across the Great Lakes, and perhaps some snow across Colorado. Yeah. So that's, you can pretty much say that that's pretty much a given. It's going to rain across the southeast, and some of it's going to be pretty heavy. If we continue, some of these members, you remember those little low pressure centers off the coast of the Carolinas, some of them produce some lows, some of them do not. So here member 5 does, member 4 does not, member 3 doesn't. What this means is that, well, that's not entirely confident. You see, most of the members do not. But here's the cool thing about what you can see. If cyclone genesis does occur, notice that on on all of those members that do produce cyclone genesis, on the back side of that is snow. So this is conditional. And what that means is, if you are a snow lover in the southern Appalachians and even in the mid Atlantic or southern New England, if you want snow, then you are pulling for cyclone genesis to be induced as cold air is infiltrating the United States. If it doesn't happen, no snow. But if it does happen, snow is likely because of how much cold air is in place. And this is pretty much what that time frame is. Looking at this is late Sunday into Monday morning. That time frame, if there's a low pressure being developed off the coast of the Carolinas somewhere, then snow is possible on the backside of that. The other thing is, by next week, if we move this forward just a tad longer, some of these members, now we are 222 forecast hours out. This is la la land. Okay, but you notice here we have, in the Carolinas at least, this member produces an ice storm. This member produces a snowstorm and an ice storm. This member has high pressure, clear skies. So you see the ranges here. All of this is possible. All of these solutions are possible here. And this is late Thursday, the 23rd, into early Friday morning, the 24th. A wide range of possibilities here, from rain to an ice storm to snow to beautiful weather. All of that's possible, which, yeah, all of it is possible. But you didn't need the GFS to tell you that, right? So while we do not know what exactly will transpire, we do know the possibilities. What we do know for certain is that it's going to get very, very cold. And because of the ongoing recovery efforts in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee and points in between, it's going to get dangerously cold, like single-digit temperatures across that area. So be careful out there. Have a plan of action when it gets really, really cold next week. I will update us on the evolution of this Arctic blast. And I hope y'all have a great day, because that does it for this video. Stay safe out there, and see you in the next one.